The main faculty senate committee that I've worked on the last 3 years while on tenure track probationary status was the Academic Standards Committee. The committee chairperson is Lorraine Brown. I'm still on the committee. Lorraine Brown is the chairperson of that committee. Multiple people on that committee I've worked with, gotten to know. Emily Raphael, the counseling department, Valerie Hetz, World Languages. I actually know Valerie Hetz from years ago, the Neon Museum. She taught here and I taught here. She teaches here and I teach here now. Or I've taught here for 20 years, but and so Shari Peterson, assessment point person for the college. And so this has been a really good committee for me to work on and serve on. And for me, overall, the service experience is learning how we just don't serve our students in the classroom, give them an education, help them gain the knowledge they need for a successful life. The Academic Standards Committee was a really good committee to serve on, to learn how not only do we serve students in the classroom and help our colleagues, it's how we help students and faculty and staff outside of the college, outside of the classroom, in the broader community. For example, one policy we worked on these last 3 years, is the course syllabus policy. And every teacher has one, but what's in order to better serve our students, what are some policies we should have in our course syllabus? What's some continuity that our students should have here at CSN between all their instructors? And so that helped, having that kind of helps, serve our students better, help the classes go smoother, also help their transition from one class to the next. One of the other committees, one of the other policies our committee worked on that I really thought was important was the academic probation and suspension policy we worked on. Sometimes students run into problems. Sometimes students have a bad academic year or a bad personal year, and it affects their academics. And so for me, this policy was really important because we're serving our students, not just, okay, you failed the class, you failed the semester, okay, we'll go away. Coming up with a policy that helps our students get back on track. How do we best serve our students that are struggling? Do we throw them out, kick them out? Do we have a really tough policy that punishes them, or do we try to find a way to help the student be guided back to a positive academic status? And so this was a really good policy for me to work on, and it kind of helped me see, it's not just serving students in the classroom, but also helping them achieve their best when they're not achieving their best. So that was a good one to work on. I enjoyed that. One of the other interesting policies I worked on with the Academic Standards Committee is the student complaint process. When students are unhappy, what are their recourses? Who do they talk to? What's the chain of commands? What happens when, like if they email the college president initially, will they be heard? What's a more efficient way for them to get their needs met? And so that was a really good policy to work on, is that, we're not just disregarding what students say. We're not just saying, oh, well, we're going to ignore that. You set up a process by which students, if they're not happy in some way, they can, first discuss with the teacher and the department chair, and then they understand how the college hierarchy works, and so they can work that up that that change to get the best possible resolution for all parties. And so that to me was really important on serving our students because I've taught college for 25 years. And students can get frustrated and not only get frustrated but feel powerless. Like, what do I do? I don't know what to do. I don't know. Like this last school year, I had a student who she felt she had a problem with another instructor on campus. She had a negative interaction and she didn't know what she could do. Well, here's a process, a policy by which you can work your way up. And so that was I was able to help that student kind of find some, they didn't feel so helpless and hopeless. Like, well, this is what you can do, to get the best resolution for all parties. Students that have an issue with me, I'm not perfect. I'm not for everyone. I'm not perfect. I have bad days too. And so, students, for students that are frustrated with me, how can you work with me? How can I work with you? And so, to me, that was a super important policy. Military deployment, military leave policy. Life happens, right? Students don't just cloister themselves off for 4 years to study. They are often they don't. Sometimes they do, I guess, but usually they don't. CSN students, they have lives, they have families, they have kids, husbands, mothers, fathers, they have family, they have work, they have personal things going on in their lives. They have other things that impact their education. How can we serve those needs? The military deployment, military leave policy is a good way to demonstrate, how we're helping students who, if you're in the military, you have obligations and you may be pulled away to serve those obligations. So how can we best have a smooth transition so a student who's active military can get the education they need and want, but still be able to fulfill their obligations to the military, their career they're in. And so those are some examples of policies working on and how I think it really serves the interests of our students and help them have a better experience. One more, if I can relate one more interesting experience about service and how it can have an immediate impact in a student's life is we're working on this last semester and the one before, we were working on a CSN AI policy. What's our AI policy going to be? That's a new technology. That's a new thing. And so to me it was an example. We're working on an issue that immediately affects students. Like right now. It's a current event. It's a current thing that's affecting institutions, schools, and how we educate each other, how we educate students. And so that was a really good policy to work on as well, because it's an example of you're serving immediate needs. How our students need guidance. Our students want guidance. Our students want to know, what can I do? What can't I do? And I've noticed that most students just want to know the strike zone. Whatever. Just have a fair, consistent, clear policy. And the academic standards, nobody really worked on these policies to be clear and consistent, and that's most students just want that. They don't care so much about what the policies are. Fine, have whatever policy you want, but have them be clear and consistent, enforceable, fairly enforced. Have them set and good, and so that's what the academic standards really worked on. And overall, it really helps students, have a good experience here at CSN. As branching off, as part of the academic standards committee, kind of branching off the main committee work, another part of the academic standards committee was every year we could participate in program peer reviews with Shari Peterson. And I'll visit more about my work with Shari Peterson in the assessment section. And working with her on these program peer reviews that was an important way we serve the college and our students, because these peer reviews are meant to help us achieve accreditation or maintain accreditation. How are we improving as a program? How are we assessing our students? How are we giving our students what's the evidence that we're giving students the education they need? And so every year, spring of 23, spring of 24, spring of 25, I've helped and worked with Shari Peterson on these peer reviews, program peer reviews, where we went into each major, like a department, look at their majors, and then look at their assessment plans, their goals, how they're improving as a program, what are their recommendations to improve. And so this is all a part of this idea of working to better the experience, not only for our students, but our faculty and our staff, and ultimately accreditation, because that's the ultimate service, is that we need to be accredited properly so that we can give our students the best education possible. And so all these parts of the Academic Service Committee, Standards Committee, really helped me kind of make that leap from, it's just more than just the classroom. The policies we have, the processes we have, really can affect positively and negatively the student experience here at CSN and the faculty experience at CSN. And so as you go through this, and you look at the emails I worked with, and you read my letters of support from multiple people on that committee that worked with me, or I worked with, you can see how I really participated and worked to help these policies serve our students and faculty the best.